Heading up to Dunkirk today. I got this nasty cold sore. This was like, I don't know, day number 2 or 3. I don't know why is it all of us Gen Xers get cold sores? Tell me that. My kids have never had a cold sore in their damn life. Every single peer I know that I grew up with gets cold sores. Tell me they didn't stab us with something that like viral that creates this, right? Anyways, Brian has a trick to kill it in one day, and he travels with this kit. It's like a 3, you have to do it 3 things. And literally this thing the next morning was done. It was like now healing. There's a little tube, it's like a $700 tube of something you can buy over the counter. I don't remember what it's called, but basically you have to like take a alcohol wipe and crush the cold sore. That's the part that sucks the most, because you need to kill the virus with the alcohol. And then you put this stuff on it that you buy over the counter, which is very expensive, and then cortisone right behind it. Done. That thing's done. And it basically goes into healing mode. So for all my Gen X friends out there that deal with this shit, that's what you gotta do. How you doing?
Hello.
Dude, could I get a cappuccino, please? Thank you. Post-World War II, where we were at our strongest, you know, the middle class was super strong after World War II. The economy grew. Manufacturing was vibrant all throughout the U.S. And then you had these world superpowers, you know, basically capitalism and communism, like these two things. Fairly new ideas, remember? This free market, untapped free market capitalism was a fairly new model. I don't know if it's a new idea, but it was a new model post-industrialization. So after the Industrial Revolution, you had greed at all costs, growth at all costs. But then you also had this idea of communism, which Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto. I've kind of been around the world also studying the why behind it. Beautiful. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Let's go. So bear with me, because this is going to be interesting. I'm gonna dive into this. And most people don't know the real story about where and why communism came from. And well, I just put 2 sugars in that. That was not my intent. My mind was somewhere else, and my body was just going through the motions. But it's okay. So communism actually sprung out of, the ideas of communism sprung out of Manchester, England, believe it or not. Just as Manchester was being industrialized, this very agrarian society, right? Where there was a cottage industry. Basically you have, when you say like cottage industry, when you say cottage industry, you're talking about like actual cottages, homes. And in these homes, people would spin yarn on a spinning wheel, and then they would weave on a hand loom, right? All of a sudden there was industrialization. First thing that happened was the spinning machine was automated. Richard Arkwright's water frame is what it was. This water frame was driven from a water wheel, and it could run like, it was either 48 or it might have been 96 spindles, right, to spin the yarn. And following that, you know, things got bigger and more robust, and the people rebelled. Like the farmers came in from the lands and they destroyed these machines at first. They went into the mills and they're like the rise of the machines, right? Kind of like AI right now, and technology. Back then, they were like, this is going to take our jobs. It's going to take our livelihoods. They went and they rebelled. They destroyed the machines, But it didn't stop the industrialists from making more, and that's exactly what they did. In Manchester, England at this time, a lot of the Irish were coming into Manchester. There was a famine. They were treated lower than low. You had slavery in America. The slave trade was again a vibrant industry. Slaves being shipped from Liverpool, England, over to America to work in the cotton fields. Cotton being shipped back on ships to Liverpool, and it went from Liverpool into Manchester through the canal systems into these mills. So you had this huge industrial machine, this global industrial machine. And people everywhere were being treated lower than low. The Irish were being horribly treated, and just folks that worked in the mills. Farmers were sending their kids into the city to work in these mills. Kids were working in bare feet. There were no labor laws. 5-year-old kids working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. It was a horrific situation, all happening in Manchester. They didn't have the infrastructure for waste. There was waste running down the street. The average age people would live to was like 17 years old. It was illegal to be homeless, so people were stacking shanty towns on top of one another. It was a horrible, horrible situation. And in Manchester, there's a library, and it's the oldest library it was the oldest library in Great Britain, called Chetham's Library. And inside Chetham's Library, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels outlined their ideas for the Communist Manifesto. And they did so because they were looking out on Manchester, seeing what was happening, and that there was no balance. And they thought the only way to create balance was for the people to take the power, to take the owners of production, to take it away from them, from the owners of production, right? The working class to go get this. And I'm not going to get into the proletariat and like the different ways that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels positioned this, but what it boiled down to is like you have to take it over by force, and then we're gonna take away all personal property, so nobody can own anything, and we're gonna make everything fair, and we're gonna distribute everything. And there was just some foundational things about these ideas for communism that were extreme. And shit, I mean, people have a way of going extreme, just like the French Revolution. After the revolution, you had extremists, and these extremists then killed their own revolutionary peers, like 10,000 or 15,000 people over a 9-month period. So people are extreme in the way they think. I don't know the psychology behind that. I'm not that smart around this, but it was extreme, this idea that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels have. And Friedrich Engels' dad owned the means of production, so the kid grew up wealthy, which is even crazy. So you got the wealthy kid writing about what should happen, but his dad is a freaking cotton trader. I mean, how's that for honesty? And he fell in love with an Irish immigrant, and so it was also a love story. He's like, I don't want to see her treated like this. I'm going to rebel against everything I know. I'm going to rebel against my family, and I'm going to go do this. And of course, it didn't really catch. Communism didn't catch until the early 1900s. But the ideas has already been loosed. And people don't realize that the idea had been loosed for communism. Funny enough, Karl Marx actually became a socialist. He abandoned communism because he saw Lincoln do the right thing with the Emancipation Proclamation. He's like, oh shit, maybe what I put out there wasn't, maybe I need to change my views on this thing. But the ideas had already been loosed, and then I think it was Vladimir Lenin was the first one to enact communism exactly how it was written. And gosh, was it like 5 million Russians died as he fed his Red Army. It was horrible. He went and murdered the aristocracy, anybody that was educated. Like, it was just this huge, and the Soviet Union was created, right? And so it's such a short time ago. Like, you're talking like 100 years ago. People don't realize that, like, that was yesterday. 100 years ago was freaking yesterday. And these two ideals, free market capitalism and communism, they started by World War II. You know, it was running Russia. Of course, free market capitalism, kind of the ideology of America. And now they're at odds because we united with Russia, right, to defeat the Axis powers. The Allies aligned. We even, after we liberated France, where I am right now, we went and took over Germany and broke it up, and the Allies got their quadrants of Germany and the West, and the Soviet Union got the East, and they stripped everything good out of it. All the machines, all the knowledge, they stripped it all out. Whereas what we did with our allies is we tried to rebuild, and we tried to show them a different way. So we tried to lead by example, and I think the free-minded, you know, we want to lead by example. So I'm going to finish this tangent. I hope you're enjoying it, but one sec. But you have these two superpowers. Now, China turned to communism. And I think that was when America was like, shit. How are we going to fight this now? Now, how are we going to fight this? You know how they fought it? They didn't fight it with bombs and guns and warfare. They fought it with economic warfare. The problem is they sacrificed the American worker, American communities, American hands. They sacrificed that to try and control China through economic upward trajectory. We will be your consumer. You make the shit. I like that. That's easy, right? We'll be the consumer. We're gonna fund your country, and you make our shit. And in order to do that, they had to end quota. Quota used to keep only a certain amount of goods coming into the United States. So you can only bring in 2 million pairs of sneakers. Well, now you can bring in 10 million pairs, 20 million pairs, 100 million pairs. They shut quota off with this NAFTA and then the World Trade Organization. They shut quota off, and boom, gluttony. That's what my business partner Kip said, because he was at Under Armour and he's like, Pete, they fucking shut quota off. I could bring in whatever the fuck I wanted. It was pure gluttony. It was gluttonous. And we fed their economy. And our community, our mills and factories and knowledge was depleted. And it was only a matter of time before the generation that knew and remembered died. And now we're here. We're here. China's still communist. They've got a mix of capitalism in their structure. You know, I mean, it's what people say. But they're still the two things that really drive the world. Capitalism, which has leaned into more social activities. Communism, which has leaned into more capitalist activities. And it's a really interesting time, because I would like to go from, me personally, I'd like to go from the free market capitalism to fair market capitalism. And I believe the only way to do this is to expose everything. I believe transparency for the next generation. If you didn't watch that video about my triangle market dynamics in this triangle, I believe the next generation is going to demand it. Where did that shit come from? But where was the fabric from? But where was the fiber from? Where did the leather come from? Where did the labor come from? Where did it come from? Who made it? Was it forced labor? Was the cotton slave labor? Be transparent with me. Because if you're not, I'm going to call you out and I'm going to tell the world you're full of shit and you're a liar. And I think we're right. I think we're right there on the cusp. I think within the next decade, this is going to be demanded, and we're positioning Origin to be that company. You're going to see a lot of brands fade away because part of what we're doing is we're trying to expose the truth and the lies. Like that's a big part of what Origin's doing as we reveal the history and our heritage and the why and where we are and what happened and where we need to go and how we're going to get there, and we provide the solution for getting there. That's the key. You can't just like state the problems without stating a solution. That's like Michael Moore and Roger and Me. I remember watching that in like 8th grade, and just wow, it was crazy. Flint, Michigan, all this shit happened. Wow, where's the fucking solution? Like, you bitch about it, go do something about it. And you got to have that rebellious mindset, that, you know, that thing that they gave us as kids. Like, you can do anything, you can be anything. Don't just take someone's word for it. Think outside of the box. Do what you know is right. I still believe in those ideals. So we got to fight. As consumers, we have to fight with our dollar into where it's going. Like, whatever you're buying, you got to fight with your dollar, because that's the only way things are going to change. And I know our administration right now is trying to enforce change through force, and I'm sure there's some good coming out of it, but I'm sure there's a lot of shit that's going to come out of it, because you can't unwind 30 years of deterioration overnight. You can't just unwind that. This is going to take at least a decade, right, to unwind. So we got to be patient with it. At the same time, we got to start. The change starts now. If we're turning a battleship in a bathtub, you got to start the change right now. You got to make new decisions, better decisions right now for yourself and for your family. Anyways, headed to Dunkirk today, and gonna crush this Cappy. Hey, post, comment below, ask me some questions more about this topic if you want. Please subscribe. Got to get some subscribers down here. Turn your notifications on and share this thing if you're enjoying these mini brain dumps.